Hello, everybody. Welcome to our really crazy show. Today is a Monday, and we got the crazy show to happen again for you the people. I'm here with my special friend, Special Ed Milewski.
Crazy Eddie.
Crazy Eddie.
Yeah.
He's crazy. That guy's crazy. And lots to talk about today. We're going to take a look at the protesters in Hong Kong fighting for their liberty against the oppressive Chinese communist criminal regime. We wish them the best of luck. They have our full support. And keep on fighting, boys. You're doing a good job. We'll check in with them. We're going to, we just can't help but not talk about the recession, which is unfolding in real time, even though a lot of people like to pretend that it's not. There's lots of commentary out there, as there usually is in times of recessionary onset, of people saying, no, don't be crazy. Don't listen to all the negativity. Go buy stocks. There's one guy who's supposedly 98% in the last decade of a stock picker, and he's quoted in Bloomberg as saying, don't worry, go for it, be happy.
Did you notice the futures open on Sunday night at 6
Which futures?
p.m. All the futures exchanges.
The entire future was before our very eyes?
Well, the future, not the future. I never thought of that. If I want to just know what's going to happen I just should watch the futures.
Watch the futures.
I don't watch the past.
You get to pick which future you like the best.
If the market would have opened this morning at 9:30 when everything was opening at 6 p.m. the night before, the Dow would have been down about 280, and gold would have been up $25. And that was because, then the president
working group on capital markets.
They calmed things down. I guess the Chinese, they got a call from the Chinese, said, hey guys, let's meet and have a chat. Okay, and the market's rallied. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's like watching a reality show.
I don't buy it. I think we're in trouble. I think the die is...
I think they're in trouble. They're the ones living in a fantasy world and thinking that they're getting away with it. Although, mind you, 90% of the people I talk to in my neighborhood buy the fantasy hook, line, and sinker.
They do, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, most people do.
Yeah, they think that the government is on
your
doing
side.
The best. Well, they don't think that, but they think the government is doing the best they can under the circumstances of which they had no authorship. So, they're getting a pass. And people, take no precautions. You say buy gold, and they just get this little smile on your face like, oh, you're one of those, are you? You're one of those guys. Anyways.
Gold bug.
Gold bug. Yes, an insect. You're just an insect.
What kind of insect would you be? Would you be like a...
Gold bug.
Bumblebee?
Well, there was 3 bands of gold on a bumblebee. I'd certainly step up for that. Better a bumblebee than a mosquito.
Do you know what insects apparently... What separates an insect from other creatures is the fact that it has 6 legs.
Really? So there's no mammals with 6 legs?
If you got 8 legs, you're not an insect.
What are you?
Something else.
What about with spiders?
Nope.
Spiders have 8 legs.
They're arachnids.
But they're insects.
I don't think so.
They are.
I don't think so.
Google that shit.
You know what? What distinguishes an insect? I think I sort of recall this from...
More than 4 legs, let's say. Because it's definitely...
A centipede, for instance.
Is an insect.
I don't know.
Has more than 4 legs, but definitely, and also
we're going to find out more, and we're going to come back.
Okay. Today we have a couple of guests for you. Actually, one. Dan McDermott is going to join us from the Chart Guys, and him and I are going to commiserate on the state of markets. Suzanne Garcia is here for her third from last performance as the news nurse.
And when it's the second last, what will it be? What's the word for second?
Pentultimate.
That's...
Damn it. What's the word for 3 away?
Penultimate plus 1.
Minus 1. Would it be minus 1?
No.
If it was plus 1, then it would be ultimate. Anyways, what else we got going on today? Well, I'll tell you what. We'll let Suzanne Garcia bring you the news, and just listen for that secret word.
Here's what's making cannabis headlines this Monday, August 26. Chiron Life Sciences announced its financial results for the second quarter ended June 30th, 2019. Revenues were reportedly $2.2 million and recognized from the sale of services at its clinics and sale of its cosmeceutical products, both of which commenced in the fourth quarter of 2018. The company recorded a net loss for the 3 months of $10.6 million or 11 cents per share. The company completed the quarter with $55.8 million in cash. James E. Wagner Cultivation reported the company's interim financial results for the fiscal third quarter ended June 30th, 2019. Revenue totaled $749,000, up 32% sequentially from Q3 2018. Net loss for the quarter was reportedly $434,000 or a cent per share. Halo Labs has been awarded 2 permanent distribution and manufacturing California state licenses for the company's second facility in Cathedral City. The facility features 7,800 square feet of manufacturing space and is closely located to Halo's currently operating manufacturing facility, Coastal Harvest. Halo now has a full suite of multiple license activities across 9,400 square feet at the company's expanding Southern California campus, including extraction, infusion, assembly and packaging, labeling, wholesale of manufactured products to distributors, distribution to all other state licensees, and conducting official certificate of analysis testing for finished goods. 48 North Cannabis has successfully shipped its first order of cannabis to the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission for retail sale. The shipment marks the company's first foray into Alberta's recreational retail market. 48 North has agreed to supply 2,400 kilograms of sun-grown outdoor organic cannabis from Good Farm and 60 kilograms of its craft indoor-grown cannabis from its northern cultivation facility, Delshan. Canopy Rivers has congratulated its portfolio company, Headset Inc., on the launch of Headset Insights in Canada. Headset's competitive intelligence tool provides real-time market data to help users uncover strategic opportunities, monitor consumer trends and behaviors, and keep tabs on competitors. Alberta will be the first province to access Headset Insights, and Canopy Rivers portfolio company YSS is among the initial group of Canadian operators already onboarded. Curaleaf Holdings has signed a sale-leaseback agreement with freehold properties valued at approximately $28.3 million for 6 of its properties in Florida, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. As a result of the transaction, Curaleaf will have sold a portion of its real estate assets while retaining use of the properties for cultivation, processing, and retail, respectively. Green Thumb Industries has closed on a transaction to acquire New York-based Fiorello Pharmaceuticals, one of only 10 companies approved to operate a medical marijuana company in the state. Assets include a manufacturing and cultivation facility and retail stores. Namaste Technologies announced that its board of directors has named Meny Moram as Chief Executive Officer and appointed him to the company's board of directors. Meny has served as the company's interim CEO since February 4, 2019, and the company's Chief Product Officer since May of 2018. TerrAscend has received approval for depository trade clearance settlement services. This electronic method of clearing securities speeds up the receipt of stock and cash and thus accelerates the settlement process for certain investors. And that's your news for today. If you want to hear more about the cannabis sector, check out Cannabis Daily at MidasLetter.com.
I won.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Come on. How many
serious.
people were in it? 2?
No, 4,800.
What?
Yeah. Halo Labs, our sponsor.
I think our viewers need to know this
What?
about your cycling prowess.
My cycling, what, that I won a professional race?
Yeah.
They don't need to know.
Well, you just told them.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Why, we're back? Oh, hey, everybody.
Okay.
Where's the little...
We have amongst us a professional bike rider.
I was pulling your leg, Ed. I won... what did I win? I won something, but it was not the race.
Oh, you didn't win the race?
No. I was in the seniors category, actually.
Seniors?
Yeah. I was over 40. Anyways, where's our little Halo squiggle in the lower left there? The sponsor. There we go. Anyway, so Halo got a second license in Cathedral City. Being our client, I figured we should talk about that a little bit. They have multiple license activities across 9,400 square feet. Connor, Donald, just a question. Are you muttering in my ear for some reason? If you are, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muttering. Okay. I think we should. I was thinking about this on the weekend. What should we talk about? I've noticed 2 or 3 or 4 financings that haven't gone particularly well in the cannabis space, where there's been a new price. Maybe they've changed it from a debenture to equity. They've downsized it, and the resulting stock, not acting well even after the financing's done. Like I'm thinking of flour, for example.
Well, it's the optics of a company. If you embark on a financing and you don't close it when you say you're going to at exactly the number you said you were going to or more, then you look weak, and your investors, especially, this is one of the worst times to raise money. Last week of summer, and the market's broadly down, and the sector is down by 50% from its April highs. Like, Jesus.
If there's companies out there that that are raising money right now, and you haven't heard what's going on, you might think, well, maybe they're just having some issues or whatever like that. It's just a general statement.
I put in money to a cannabis deal last year, and I didn't hear anything for the longest time. I finally called up my broker and said, "Is this thing closing or what?" And he says, "Well, apparently you and one other guy were the only ones who wrote a check, and the company's already cashed a check and spent the money. It wasn't even put in trust." And this company was on the cusp of bankruptcy. And the story continues because there was a rescue of the company, and it's living to fight another day. And in fact, I put more money in after that. But it's all about the jockey, right?
Yeah, and what can you mention that company, or would you rather not?
I would rather not, because I don't want to. I don't want to cast them.
Is it public?
No, it's not. Which is why I don't need to mention them. And so they were supposed to raise this money in 2018 and go public, and they didn't. And they basically had to restructure, and that's what they did. And so, they're going to live to fight another day. In fact, they are now. But Halo, I just wanted to point out, lost 11 cents per share in the last quarter, but on 300% more revenue in the same quarter from the year previous. So, I mean, in this environment of disappointing earnings across all cannabis brands, like name one that hasn't had disappointing earnings. Well,
C-Web.
Charlotte's Web. The rest are in a. Charlotte's Web is now in a category by itself.
And Village Farm too, I think, to some degree.
Village Farms? Oh, I haven't looked at their financials. But did you know that when you go and download the listings of cannabis companies from the TSX website, there's only one company listed in the CBD category, and that's Charlotte's Web?
Really?
Yeah. Which makes sense, because CBD is not licensed for non-medical use in Canada. So there's no reason for somebody to be just a CBD company in Canada. It's like, why would anybody do that? Everybody here is a grower. They grow THC and
So there's
CBD.
no distinguishing here in Canada between CBD and THC, really?
Well, I mean, except for the effects on your brain,
except for the
body.
but you don't need one or the other, right? It's fine.
One or the other. But we don't have, like in London right now, you go to London and every drugstore has a shelf full of CBD products, because CBD has been approved as a non-medical ingredient food additive. So as a health and wellness product, as a bioceutical, it's fair game. Canada still doesn't have that. Even the hemp that's licensed in the United States, the hemp extracts, is not technically legal in Canada.
Really?
Curious, eh?
Yeah.
Curious. But so that's just a demonstration of how screwed up that the whole cannabis industry has become thanks to government intervention. Mind you, I am happy for the screwed up intervention, because at least now we don't have to worry about getting tossed in the clink every time we have a little puff on the street. That was most disturbing. Did you know that we're about to go up in Ontario's cannabis stores are about to triple? That's what I'm trying to say. Phewy. Did you know that?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. So what was that going to happen overnight?
No, it won't happen overnight. Nothing in this country happens overnight. But 42 applicants were notified to apply for a cannabis retail store authorization in Ontario. So these are 42 applicants that were part of the original licensing process. And if you go to agco.ca, you can actually see exactly which municipality they were licensed for. Cut to my screen. Am I up on my NDI? Yeah, look at that. So you can see here, let's broaden that up. These are the people who got their licenses. Ronan Ackerman. That sounds like a promising name. He's got the license for Innisfil. Ethan Stark. He's licensed for Ottawa in units 3, 4, and 5 at 4335 Standherd Drive unit. Huge Shops Ontario in the Kawartha Lakes got a license at 566 Frank Hill Road. But here's the list.
Look at this.
Look at this. Look at this. Corey Ketchivalani. Do you recognize that name?
No.
That is the son of Cole Ketchivalani, the co-founder of Afria. Yeah, Burlington.
How in the hell did he get a license?
Well, I guess he applied.
Apparently, one of the cafe places got a license.
Yeah, so one of these guys, and I don't know which guy it is, but he's the guy who operates all of those cafes that got shut down in Toronto. And he got a license. So it's interesting to me that they're shutting down his cafes while they give him a license on the other hand. Mind you, I wonder if they realize that they've given him a license.
Right.
Which will be interesting to see. But anyways, quite the list. But look at this. Look at how many locations here. Look on Queen Street alone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four new stores on Queen Street between 1303 Queen East and 237 Queen West. Like that brings...
Well, look at that. You got 213 Queen Street East and 213 or 240 or whatever Queen Street West.
Yeah. Here's another Queen Street West. Look at that.
Yeah, they need more downtown. So
Yeah.
I don't have to go so far.
We don't have enough weed around downtown. But look at that. I can't believe they published the names and everything, so we can just call them up and ask them for, do you want to do some business? If any of you guys watching are one of the recipients of the license and you'd like to talk to us about an investment and a co-marketing sponsorship program / joint venture / call us. Call Suzanne. Her phone number is 647-348-8000, or better yet, email us at midasletter@midasletter.com, because we've got some Midas Letter cannabis products coming down the pike. Did you know that?
And then we're starting in the new year, approximately, we're going to start to see some edibles.
Yeah, but look at this. Applicants who wish to participate in this lottery had to meet pre-qualification requirements, including confirmation from a bank or credit union that the applicant has the financial capacity to obtain $250,000 in cash or cash equivalents. It had to also submit a standby letter of credit in the amount of $50,000. Jesus! Isn't that interesting? So when you have to put that up, you have to put the money up, and the bank takes it, segregates it, gives you the letter, unless, of course, your credit's good. But, yeah, was this page useful? They want to know. I'm going to respond to this survey right now, Ed. Survey Monkey. Who are you calling a monkey?
Survey Monkey?
Yeah.
What's a Survey Monkey?
It's a little platform on the internet by which you can take surveys of people. Are you familiar with Headset?
No.
Headset is the data company that's that's an investee of Canopy Rivers.
No.
Yeah, they are. But they have some interesting insight. They just launched their Canadian program, which I reached out to them to ask them if we could feature their data in exchange for a complimentary membership.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at this Tilray, and I traded it last week a few times from the long side, no good. It's not bounced at all. Like, it is right, it's dropped precipitously, and there's no bounce.
Yeah, look at that drop.
Look at it, it's right at the bottom, or near the bottom.
Wow, so since you've invested, it's lost even
Well,
more.
I'm not in it anymore.
Think there's any relationship between that, Ed?
Yeah. Another one of my brilliant ideas.
Anyways, I spoke to my good friend Dan McDermott from the ChartGuys.com a little earlier. And I'm joined now by Dan McDermott of the ChartGuys.com. Dan, hello, how are you?
Good, glad to be back. How you doing, James?
I'm well, thank you, except I'm very bored. There doesn't seem to be much going on in the markets today. I can't find anything to buy, sell, short, or invest in. How about you?
That's basically where it stands, and that's why I've been looking at other sectors, gold miners, and a lot of interest there as far as volatility goes. But you're absolutely right. There's a lack of clarity, and the MJ sector has been boring, essentially. I do the videos every day, and I'm running out of things to say because I'm repeating myself as a broken record. We're in downtrends. There's no shift for the bulls. Slow and steady pullback. Have to be cautious of the trade war and the SP 500 correlations. And we're just patiently waiting to see if the fall seasonality shift can lead to a sector shift.
Sure. I too have been repeating myself continuously in my morning note as well as on our show. But, you know, key themes that I am sort of watching, and I'm sure you are too, is, you know, the cannabis sector generally has become highly correlated to the S&P. There's not a healthy S&P. There's just no game in the cannabis sector. And I think in the context of the trade war, you know, watching the dialogue that comes out of the administration where one day it's pro-China, the next day it's harshly anti-China, and then the next, even in the same day, it'll be back to pro-China, and then, you know, you get the sense that there's a conciliatory tone and then an antagonistic tone. And that seems to perfectly mimic exactly what we're seeing in the S&P. And do you think that is closely correlated as well, that what is being said at the G7 summit and in the media between China and the US is a reflection of what we're seeing in the S&P?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, the pattern in the S&P 500 the last 2 weeks is exactly what I would expect it to be, just as far as I've said it many times, but the equilibrium and tightening range. The difference is the speed at which the pivots take place. So Friday, when Trump comes out and says, oh, well, we're going to retaliate to China, and I'll tell you more about it later this afternoon, the market has a free fall dump. And that happens really fast. But looking at the daily time frame, as I'll show you in just a minute, that is what we would expect with just a higher low, lower high tightening range. And to the end of this week or early next week, that tightening range is going to break, and it's going to dictate momentum for September, whether if it's a bull break, we're looking back at all-time highs in the S&P 500. And if it's a bear break, we're going to see that fear spike again. And we're going to be looking back down really towards the December lows as key levels. If you'll remember the December dump that was so brutal, that will be back on the table if we break these August lows.
Sure. Do you think that the sort of the inclination and the momentum towards continued quantitative easing or a resumption of quantitative easing in the case of China and lower interest rates to the point of now, you know, $17 trillion in global debt is negative. Do you think that that is going to have an effect on the S&P one way or the other if that trend towards increased liquidity and deteriorating interest rates continues?
For me, I'm just, in the short term, I'm watching the balance of can the positives that the market perceives from rate cuts, can that outweigh the negatives of the trade war escalation? That's really the balancing act that's going on right now. As far as the longer term, you know, I like to look at my dad as a potential gauge. He's a baby boomer who's just had to, you know, put your extra money in the stock market and let it ride out. And he sat through 2008 and he sat through every pullback of the last 30 years. But now he's starting to get more conservative and he's starting to take more money off the table because he doesn't have the time on his side to be able to ride out another, you know, decade dump and bounce. So I think what the baby boomers do with their portfolios is going to have a significant impact as to whether this, you know, whether the S&P 500 can keep this. Essentially, it's been one big move since the bottom of 2008, and that's now pushing 10, 11 years old. Can that keep up? And will the baby boomers be moving their money to more conservative investment strategies?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what about the cannabis sector now? If we're reliant on that S&P 500 for at least stability before we see any interest, I question that relationship as we move towards the end of August because, you know, with all of the earnings coming out being uniformly disappointing in the cannabis space, it strikes me that even in the case of a healthy S&P, that the cannabis sector might continue to sell off if the earnings continue to be disappointing. Is that the way that you see it, and is that being reflected in the bellwether cannabis stocks?
It's definitely possible, and like you said, earnings are getting more important as far as what they do with price. As the euphoria has worn off from legalization in Canada, the earnings are now important, and that's what everybody's looking to. So it's really just a question of, can we get, or honestly, I'm looking for the catalyst. I'm looking for the catalyst from the US to be a shift, and it doesn't have to be full legalization. If we get the STATES Act or the SAFE Act or something that reschedules marijuana off of Schedule 1 and opens up the floodgates for banks to work in the space, that's the catalyst that I'm looking for. Some companies have come out, I believe it was TLRY, they came out and said they expect it in Q4 2019. I'm not going to hold my breath, but honestly, I am going to, as personally being a trader, I'm going to not be going aggressive in this space until we get that kind of catalyst. And honestly, I hope the S&P 500 has stabilized by then, because it's the kind of thing where the Canadian space ran up so hard with so much euphoria into legalization because the S&P 500 was at all-time highs as well, and it was just a double whammy. Whereas if we were seeing weakness in the S&P 500, yes, the sector would still be going up, but it would be much less bang for our buck. So essentially, I'm just holding out and hoping that when we do get the catalyst from the US side of things, which will impact the Canadian side of things as well as companies start to, reach down across the border, but can that catalyst occur in a favorable S&P 500 environment and give us the home run that we're looking for?
Right. All right, Dan, let's take a look at some of your charts.
So first chart we got here is the S&P 500, and here is the tightening range that I was talking about, the equilibrium that comes after volatile breaks of ranges. So we had the volatility dump back at the start of August. We hit our low. We hit the high of the bounce from that point. We held the low of support. We rejected from the high. So this is what I was talking about, where Thursday and Friday, I wouldn't be surprised at all to reject from resistance, and because we couldn't break that level, to see a pullback back into the middle of the range. The difference is it happened all at once with a huge red candle due to the trade war escalation. So now we're looking at a higher low to form. So it's still just this tightening range pattern, and certainly what was expected. And the break of this range is going to dictate momentum into September. So here we are trading just at about 287. The middle of this range is in the low 288s. So we have a slight bear lean because we're a little bit below the midway point. But we could stay within this tightening range all week and then look for a break of this either end of the week or early next week. Like I said, if we break bullish, all-time highs are right up there, and they'll be less than 3% away at that point. And if we break bearish, we're looking down at the low of June and then the low of December as really the major levels. So how we come out of this range that we've now been trading within pretty much all of August, that's going to be key and critical, because if it's a bear break, again, that's going to spike fear in the market as a whole. And if there's fear in the market, the high risk, high reward sector of the marijuana stocks are not going to be looked upon in a positive light. So looking at CGC, I think the short-term direction of the sector is going to be dictated by this oversold bounce, and I do have a position in CGC looking for this oversold bounce. I'm just looking for a bounce to a daily lower high. Every single bounce that we've seen since we topped out at $52 back in April has just been a lower high and has been followed by lower lows. So I'm not looking to change any trends. I'm not looking for any major moves. I'm just looking for the short-term selling pressure to subside, for bearish exhaustion for everybody that's going to sell or go short from the earnings reaction and the negative articles that come out after that, for that to all have already happened. Now, who's going to be left to sell? We get to a point where the selling pressure subsides and the bull bounce gets going. So I'm just going to be looking for a bounce to the upper $20 range, even just looking up to $27, $28 for a short-term bounce. That is what I'm going to be looking for. And then my game plan from there, I can either take short-term profit or set my stop loss at break even, where if we do set that lower high, and then if we were to fade down, here's our little bounce. If we set a lower high and then fade back down and drop to a lower low, I would have zero risk if I get stopped out at break even. I've yet to determine how I will play a bounce. Step number one is getting the bounce going, and that has yet to happen yet. Every single day is a lower high the last 9 days in a row, and we certainly have to see that pattern break for any kind of meaningful bounce to take place. So looking at VFF and APHA, these are two names I want to highlight real quick. The reason being the weekly time frames are leaps and bounds ahead of potentially changing the trend comparative to their peers. So we pull up the CGC weekly chart, and it's just a straight drop. We know that the next time we bounce on CGC, any meaningful way. We can bounce 20% on CGC and still just be looking for a weekly lower high in the longer term downtrend. So looking at VFF, we already had a major weekly bounce, and now we're looking for the weekly higher low. So to see the trend change take place, it's the bounce, it's the higher low, wherever that forms, and then we have to see the higher high to get the weekly trend change. And anybody in the sector needs to see a weekly trend change for us to say, okay, the longer term momentum has shifted and we're now back in uptrends on the daily and the weekly time frame. It's been a long time since we could say that, but that's what's required. So VFF, already looking for its weekly higher low to form, is leaps and bounds ahead of CGC, who would still have to bounce, set a lower high, and then pull back and see a higher low. So really it's 3 or 4 weeks in front of, or I should say it's a 3 or 4 week more developed attempt at a weekly trend change, which CGC is starting from square one to try and see, whereas VFF already has 6 weeks under its belt of this bounce and now higher low. And APHA, thanks to the earnings reaction, is in a similar boat where we have the low, the high of the bounce, which was just a lower high from previous price levels, and now we're trying to set this higher low, and if the bulls can hold 583 and break 760, it'll be a weekly trend change, which again is very meaningful in this sector to show a shift in the longer term momentum. And if APHA or VFF can pull that off, technically speaking, they'll become the leaders of the sector for me, and that's who I will be watching as a gauge of strength because their charts will be the strongest. One other thing I want to point out today is something that happened with correlations. And I want to talk about the US MJ sector and the Canadian MJ sector and uplisting and higher exchanges. So when you're traded on a higher exchange like the NYSE or the NASDAQ, correlations are much more prevalent because there's automatic trading, there's bots, high frequency trading. That's rampant on the NYSE and the NASDAQ because of volatility, volume, liquidity, market makers. On the OTC, which is the lowest tiers, penny stocks associated with a lot of scams, and there are a lot of scams on the OTC, you don't have the big money investors, you don't have the access to capital, you have less market makers, you have less volume, and because of all of that, you have less activity from algos and bots that are trading. So an example is CGC this morning. We had a news alert come out that says the DEA is expanding its research into medical marijuana, and this is 2 decades too late, but they're expanding their research, basically. So on the 5-minute time frame, and I actually lucked out here because I was bottom fishing the low of Friday, which means making an entry just above a key support level and putting your stop level just below it. So I entered at 24.50 and I put my stop loss at 24.35, risking about 15 cents below the low of Friday. The timing of the news was perfect because we held the low of Friday with a double bottom and then ripped real high, or ripped much higher, and that was just perfect timing as far as holding support. But what I want to point out is the huge volume, and if you look at ACB, APHA, TLRY, Cron, everybody, when that news hit, saw this move. Maybe not the same size, but saw the volume spike and saw the bullish action. The reason being, all the algos picked up either on the headline or they picked up on CGC. Let's say, there's a bot, I'm trading Cron with a bot, and I say, okay, if CGC does this, then I want my bot to buy this. And so it's feeding off of not only the headlines, but what its sector peers are doing. And so, like I said, everybody saw a move right here. If you go to the US space, you don't have that correlation because you don't have the bots trading. So that move time-wise, that spike occurred, really we could say 10:15 is when that really got going. And if you look at the US here, this is Cura, the bounce started at about 10:30, and it wasn't a very meaningful bounce, but you can go through and look at a lot of individual names and just see that the move was a bit delayed. Any little bounce in green that we saw was delayed. So there's 2 takeaways here. Number 1, don't expect correlations to be significant, but number 2, we can potentially act on that. If we get significant bullish news, this wasn't significant bullish news, it was nice bullish news, but I'm talking, significant bullish news. If we see that happen, whether it's on an individual name or federally speaking or whatever, there's a lag opportunity to play the USMJ space because, again, those bots, if you try to compete with the bots on the NYSE and play a laggard, there's not many laggards because they respond so quickly and so fast. But in the US space, because we're traded on the OTC, that laggard action does still present itself as a potential opportunity. So that's nothing to do with the short term aside from the example, but just something to be aware of where if you see bullish USMJ news and you see the Canadian players on higher exchanges reacting to it, look real quick over to the USMJ names and see if we can see some laggard action and get in, anticipating that the US MJ space will respond bullish as the Canadian space did, depending on what the news is, of course, but just a general little tip.
All right, Dan, great as usual. Thank you very much for joining us today.
See you next time.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. Looking at a chart right now, not of the stock index, but of the Google search interest for the term recession. And you'll note that the search interest in the term recessions is at its highest level since 2009. So this demonstrates in no uncertain terms that, at least in the general public domain, the concern over recession is very high indeed.
3 years ago, nobody seemed to be worried about a recession, according to this.
Well, exactly.
So maybe this is our new crystal ball.
Yeah, well, there are 7 warning signs of a recession, according to The Guardian. The escalation in the U.S.-China tariff war is 1. Slowing U.S. growth is 2. U.S. GDP slowed to 2.1% of annualized growth in the second quarter. Definitely bad. Definitely recession. Long recession in Germany. Angela Merkel's finance minister, Olaf Scholz, said he raised expectations to boost the economy by 50 billion euros.
No, you mean million euros.
Billion euros. German GDP shrank by 0.1% in the second quarter. Then there's the Chinese debt crisis. So there's increasing coverage of this idea that Chinese corporations are not showing the debt collectively that they owe. And that could really undermine China's ability to project the perception that it's still growing. And then, of course, there's Brexit. Now, interestingly, on Brexit, there was a piece by the Financial News London. Where did it go? And so this guy here, this little fellow right here on my screen, he's
getting ready to put up his dukes.
Yeah, that's Boris Johnson, and he suggests that the likelihood of a Brexit deal with the European Union, is unlikely, or touch and go, as he categorized it.
What does that mean, touch and go?
Touch and go means like a touch and then I'll go. Just
really?
Like that.
A little touch and go.
Fabulous. Anyways, so the interesting essay in the Financial News London was that Brexit Britain is becoming a failed state. Meaning?
Brexit Britain.
Brexit Britain.
So that means Britain is exiting.
Brexit! Jolly quick of you there, Edward. You know they took a vote a couple of times ago. Yes, and now they're exiting.
Really?
Brexit, yes, it's going to be a failed state, don't you know?
So if they didn't go, they wouldn't be Brexit. They'd be Brenter.
They'd be Britain.
No, Brenter.
Brunter?
Brenter, enter.
Brenter. Well, no, because they've already been there for 14 years.
Britain exit, Brexit. Yes. Britain enter, Brenter.
That's what they were.
What are they now?
Now they're just
failed state.
Failed state. But so they figure that because of the absence of a deal, they're going to start to enforce all these different things like tariffs and inspections, and they're going to want to see your passport. So all of this infrastructure that has been built at the border points for streamlined passage by merchandise and people is now going to find itself ill-equipped to handle the newfound traffic with people who don't have the right to travel between borders without an inspection, don't you know?
Pity.
So I was thinking, this is a good chance to say, fuck you to the USA and make whoopee with the British.
Well, there's more and more comments out there about the eventual the Americans losing their status as the reserve currency. You know, and that's what China's trying to do.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it because it puts their currency at a discount and puts the American currency at a premium.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, that's why you can't get a kickstart in the manufacturing sector in the U.S. because their dollar's so high, so their raw materials cost
so
so
maybe
much
they
more.
should let it fall.
Well, how do they do that?
Go off being
Do
the
you want me
reserve
to get
currency.
Donald Trump on the phone right now, and you can give him a little?
You get Donald Trump on the phone right now. I
What would you
got
tell
a
him?
$20 bill in my pocket that's got your name on it.
Canadian or U.S.?
We'll go with U.S. Only because we're dealing with. If it was
Well.
the Russian president, if it was.
Then you'd be offering rubles.
Yeah. Not rubbish. Rubles.
Rubles.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I was reading on Project Syndicate, which bills itself as the world's opinion page. There was this interesting piece by Nouriel Roubini, and I found this because he quoted himself in an article. But he's making the case that tariff wars often end in war. In tariff battles, always end in war. And Harvard's University Graham Allison examined 16 earlier rivalries between an emerging and an established power and found that 12 out of 16 cases led to full-fledged war, which is, charming.
You know, you know what? One of the great reasons there was a depression was trade wars, and here we are. Here we are. And the depressions was bad. It was bad.
Was it bad?
Well, I don't know.
really
I wasn't
remember
there.
that.
I just, we've got our chart there, we got the S&P chart. I want to point something out to the viewers, just quickly. When we had a big red down day here.
Uh-oh.
And then we've had 1, 2, 3 up days. We had a
Where?
big, green, green, green.
Huh.
See that?
No kidding.
Outside. Okay, then we went back and tested another big red candle.
Yeah.
Then green, green, green. 3 more green candles, okay?
Green,
Stay with
green,
me.
green, your
It
chart?
rolls over.
Yes.
And we got another big down day here on this red candle. And today we got a green candle. I think we're going to have 2 more green candles.
Really?
I mean, it sounds crazy.
Well,
But look at that. Look at that.
You're expecting a pattern.
We're trying to find whether this is going to hold.
Well, now, correct me if I'm mistaken, but doesn't it turn red every time Donald Trump ratchets up the rhetoric against China in trade war lingo? And then the next day, realizing that he's stepped a little too far, he starts to wax conciliatory and makes all these overtures to China, and then floats the idea to the mainstream media that it's not as bad as it seems, and that's your 3 green days. Green, green, green. Then the media...
Or is that just the phone?
Green, 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 green,
Pick it
green.
up.
Hello.
Okay.
But so then, so he again tweeted out to everybody and said, we don't need China. And then he stipulated that he was encouraging the corporations of the United States not to do business with China. Big red day. Now green, it's not as bad as it seems. He's suggesting that he's having second thoughts about tariffs. It's like, I don't know. How can you take somebody like that? How can you listen to them with any degree of credibility? And the volatility in that market, like you look at that, the last 10 sessions, and that is the market that is being reflecting the discourse of an insane person.
Really?
Well, because wouldn't you expect a global leader to be consistent in their policy and thus in their thinking, which would indicate that it would either be going down, 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 or up, 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 up.
And as I've pointed out a couple times, the 100 craziest people were all leaders of countries.
Really?
The greatest despots the earth has known were all leaders of countries.
Well, wait, despots are crazy people.
Well, despots.
Crazy despot?
Yeah,
Or despotic
to be a
crazy
despot, to start, trying to eliminate a race or trying to, megalomaniacs, right? Like they're crazy. They're crazy people.
Crazy.
Like,
so you have to be crazy to be a world leader?
Look at this guy, Paul Pot from Cambodia. Remember? Paul Pot.
Yeah.
Smoke some pot. When he got in power, he said, "Okay, let's go kill all the people that wear glasses."
Really?
Yeah, reading glasses.
Huh.
Why? Because he thought they were educated and they were part of the elite. Blah blah blah. See how you just get.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Listen. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Oh, how about what's happening right now in Hong Kong? Look at that. battle is raging. The Chinese have started to become more aggressive in their treatment of protesters. They're firing tear gas, they're shooting guns.
Yeah.
I think we're just on the cusp of a moment in time where this thing turns into a suppression of a protest. Look at that. The Chinese moving in with the heavy artillery, with the heavy weapons, and that's our man. That's the Midas Letter guy in Hong Kong.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm just
But
going
look
out
at those
for
crowds,
a toke.
eh?
Just going out for a toke. Hey, if you're a bike rider, you're a big bike rider, right? I got a question for you.
Bike rider?
Big bike rider.
I never write while I'm on my bike.
Not a big bike rider. Rider.
Rider.
If you're when you're driving down the street, are you allowed to drive the wrong way on the street
I can do whatever the hell I want.
on a bicycle?
I can do whatever the hell I want.
So you don't have a license.
Don't have a license. I have a license to kill, which I do sometimes. Nobody's found
So the
any
traffic
bodies
is,
yet.
you don't have to be on the right side of the road.
Well, you're supposed to.
But what if you're not, and a guy pulls out and he isn't looking for you because he expects you to be on the other side, and then he gets
Well-
mad at you?
Well, you deserve to be yelled at.
Why?
Because if you're cutting off some guy in a car, the guy
If
is
he's on the wrong side of the street,
he's on the wrong side of the bicyclist.
bicycle is.
Well, then it'd be get out and yell at them. I'd run him over. If I had a car,
Okay.
I'd run me over half the time. But the thing is, I generally, if I'm riding on the wrong side of the street, it's because there's no cars coming on that side of the street. So,
Especially you wouldn't be riding on a sidewalk.
Well, yeah, the sidewalk's a different story. Like, I mean, in this city, are you kidding me? Like, there are times where you just have to get out of off that road and onto that sidewalk, and pedestrians be damned, because there's a big dump truck coming down with mirrors out to here. It's like you're just about, if you stay in the road, your chances of being flattened and killed are above average.
Okay.
I was in front of our building the other day, and there's a bike lane on Adelaide Street. Bike lane goes all the way down the street.
Yeah.
The bike lane was full of trucks parked, waiting to get into this building to deliver their daily delivery. It's like the bike lane thing doesn't work. I mean, and you create these expectations on the part of cyclists that this bike lane is their rightful right-of-way, and yet these delivery guys with big trucks have the expectation that it's their obligation to park in the bike lane and wait for an opportunity to pull into the freight elevator. So it's like a untenable situation, you might call. And untenable situations are the outcome of poor design. That's my rant for the day anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a bit about the price of gold, Ed, because the price of gold...
I think we got to talk about gold.
Gotta talk about that
Yeah.
gold.
Because we saw another new fresh high today.
Fresh
and,
high.
And when these highs come, they go by, I think it hit in the futures market. Okay, well that's okay.
That's the gold trust.
That's the gold trust. The futures were up to 1564. The gold bullion was up to what? 1559.
1555.
1555.
I saw.
And so it's back to unched on the day. It looks like.
Unched.
I'm going to put up the GLD here, just to have it handy. Yeah, look at this. Well, you know what? It looks like it may have short-term topped here, just, because we're moving into the new area, but now we're unchanged. I don't know.
But
don't know
look
what
at
to
that.
say.
Touched a high, hold on, here's the bar, we're at August 25th. So that was last night. It touched a high of 1555.33
Yeah.
on light volume. Look at that.
Well,
Anyways, so what does it mean? Why should we care? Again, if you look at all of the evidence gathering that we're going into a rather steep and precipitous recession, here's the thing. You know what the taller a tree is, the longer it takes to build up a momentum to the point where you can perceive it falling? Do you know that? Have you ever noticed that? You ever watched guys chopping down trees in a forest? The taller the tree, the longer it takes between the time it actually shears and builds up sufficient momentum to the downside that you can perceive it.
yeah.
The bigger the tree, the longer it takes to get going. So the same thing applies in financial markets. The bigger the problem, the bigger the collapse, the bigger the contraction is going to be, the longer it takes to get going, which means there's a longer period of all these indicators. And sure enough, Nero Rubini, who was all over the warning about the collapse of the housing crisis in 2006, after he read some of our work, he basically is, reading us again and predicting that we're going into a major recession, which I thought was rather flattering. Okay, maybe he didn't read us. Maybe he's got his own ideas.
You see that chart of gold there? That's the one that looks so bullish. When you see that, the current price over that, how many times did it try to get over? What was the number? Like 1360, 1370, and now
you're talking about the trusts.
And you see it several times over 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
I think you
can't really look at the ETF though, and it doesn't mimic.
That one just mimics gold exactly. It does, except for the storage. Yeah,
but this is the thing.
It's a
gold
1-to-1.
ETFs can buy futures, right?
I don't know. I think
they can buy gold certificates and futures,
is all
which means that
bullion.
it's not necessarily representative of gold in possession.
But if you took the chart of gold,
yes,
the spot price, and you put it on that chart, it's almost identical in terms of the,
Really?
Look where it peaked, 2011.
Peaked.
See?
Yeah. Well, it's down a little now.
A little bit.
Good observation there. Anyways, what else is happening?
Look at weed. Weed's been.
Oh, yeah, that's what we haven't done.
Weed's down 3 cents
indexes.
today. 3 cents.
3 cents. Boy, that's pretty much inched.
What about? Yeah, let's talk about the indices and see if the indices.
So the major index is up 0.27% to 73.77. So that's like an irresolute day if ever there was one. Wheat is up 0.33%, up 11 cents, I'm showing, to 33.26. Aurora tacked on 2.53%, but a really lackluster day. And more to the point, if we zoom in on this, look at how the volumes are just drying up on these stocks.
Yeah.
Compared to back here in June, we're looking at volumes of 23, 30 million, 21 million. We're down here to 11 million, 12 million, 8 million. This is a lack of interest, wouldn't you say?
And when you get these big exponential moves, and then they start to come down, they get past the point, and they seem, and not always, but generally speaking, they tend to go to sleep. That thing's pointing south, isn't it?
Go to sleep, go to sleep. Anyways, let's talk about some of our gold companies and see how they're doing.
I would think they're. Let's put up. Want to put up Galani today?
Yeah, sure.
Let's put up Galani.
See what it's doing. It was up slightly.
Right.
I own that stock.
Well,
I'm glad I do too, because it has not been disappointing.
Look, it's performing. Here we are. 8 cents today.
Yeah. How do you like that? What's it at?
It's up. It's 8 cents.
I told you. 8 cents, eh? Well, so that's again, some of these stocks are really spiking. If we let's take a look at what was happening in the, let's see, Galani Gold. So, look at this. Galani Gold.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a quiet day here. We're in the last week of summer. I don't want to make excuses, but it would be a nice weekend, nice week. Maybe start thinking about heading up north.
Oh yeah, you going up north, are you?
I think I'm going to go to see my doctor buddy up in Perry Sound.
Get some wisdom.
Yeah, wisdom. How about some wisdom teeth pulled?
There's the Galani chart. I just want to take a look at that before we call it a day here. This thing has gone from trading by appointment back here in April and May to look at the volume in the last few days.
Yeah, I know. No. It's
12.5 million shares traded on the 19th. Oh.
Okay.
We're having some music now.
All right.
How about that? Is it time to dance?
Time to So the other, when you know the stock hit 9.5 there about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it hasn't been there in at least 2 years. So even those small moves, the fact is, we're starting to change. Things are changing.
So some of the large volume traders on the TSX Venture Market were gold stocks, and in fact, again, we're seeing more days where the top traders on each of the Canadian exchanges, the TSX, the CSE, the TSX Venture, and the NEO, are not cannabis stocks.
I know we started off here and we spent a lot of time talking about marijuana stocks, but look, if you only want us to talk about marijuana stocks because that's what you're holding, and you're not feeling good about it, and you're looking for some answer, some
Wisdom.
the wisdom may be, maybe move some of that money in the gold sector.
Couldn't hurt. Couldn't hurt. Top 5 traders in the TSX Venture at this time are Dynacert,
Oh, I remember that one.
makers of the hydrogen converters for catalytic, whatever the thing there.
Hydrogen bomb. They make the. Yeah, that stock.
But they're up 6 cents today, up 15.2%. Namaste Technologies put on 4 cents today. Yeah.
Marijuana stock.
Up to 44 cents now. There's one that's really taken it on the chin. That's lost like 90% of its value. NX Gold added a penny. It's up a nickel, or up to a nickel now. Roscan Gold Corporation added a penny. It's up to 16 cents. Therales warrants, Barkerville Gold Mines. A lot of mining starting to take off. Let's take a look at the large caps on the TSX. Belo Sun Mining, a Brazilian mining company of Stan Barty's down there in Brazil.
I noticed that AGG got back to 52, 53 for a while. But I think they raised money. They're jockeying.
Yeah.
More
backed
news
off
coming
a bit.
there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes another run. Oh, probably in about 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that when they're going to start drilling?
Well, no, that's when the hold comes off the paper.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There's an honest
There you go.
guy.
Aurora Cannabis added 17 cents, trading at $7.69. And Kenna Corporation up 12 cents to $5.62. Bombardier, Canada's favorite welfare corporation, up 9 cents to $1.67.
Welfare Corporation.
Yeah,
Welfare Corporation.
Federal bailouts by this company all the time. And it has a preferred ownership structure that penalizes regular run-of-the-mill shareholders. It should not be allowed to exist in this fashion, but it does. On the CSE, let's take a look. What's trading big time there? Well, Golden Leaf Holdings continue its long, slow march into a dark and dusty grave, even at 5 cents, but nonetheless a high trade at 3.6 million. Sensor Technologies, no idea what they do, but oh my gosh, last at a penny. We'll just ignore that.
I think rollback's coming. Rollback.
Yeah, rollback. Blueberry Medical is 26 cents, up a penny.
Blueberry?
Blueberry.
Not blackberry.
Nope, Blueberry Medical. Colombian cannabis deal. But so most of the big movers on the markets are not cannabis companies.
Well, that's
But in the cannabis space, let's take a look at the CSE and see what's moving there, shall we?
Okay.
So let's see. Cresco Labs actually put on a nice performance today, up 8.89% to $11.27. Total change of 92 cents to the good. Let's see what else here. Wildflower Brands added 7 cents, up 21% to 40 cents. Quinsam Capital Corp, this is Roger Dent's investing vehicle in the cannabis space, added 3 cents to 18 cents. Boy, that thing's taking it on the chin. Let's look at that chart.
What's the ticker?
QCA.
On the CNX?
CSE, yes. So yeah, been on a long, slow ride down from, back in November it was trading at 38 cents and now it's down to, so it's seen better days for sure. Halo is up 7% today. Our client, our sponsor. Let's pull up a Halo chart, shall we?
Wow.
Look at that, eh? HALO.
Boy, you're looking at that Quinsam chart, you can see where the marijuana sector peaked.
Halo Labs up 6.02% on this chart, though we're probably a little bit delayed on this one. Yeah, on good volume too, 547,000 shares traded. But yeah, looks like there might be a bit of momentum building in that one. We'll see. Anyways, so that's our show for today. Happy Monday, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter on the website at MidasLetter.com if you haven't already. And other than that, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
On your line, Sophie.